reading from 2 Samuel chapter 11, starting at verse 2. And this passage in the Message translation is called David's Sin and Sorrow. One late afternoon, David got up from taking his nap and was strolling on the palace roof. From his vantage point on the roof, he saw a woman bathing. The woman was stunningly beautiful. David sent to ask about her and was told, "Isn't this Bathsheba, daughter of Eliam and wife of Uriah the Hittite?" David sent his agents to get her. After she arrived, he went to bed with her. This occurred during the time of purification following her period. Then she returned home. Before long, she realized she was pregnant. Later, she sent word to David, "I am pregnant." Now, pretty much every time I've heard that verse or that chapter mentioned, it's always been kind of directed towards men, but I guess kind of women as well. And it's about avoiding the instance for sexual sin. It's always shown David as, well, typical man, lustful desires, getting his blood up, wanting sex with any creature his eyes behold, because after all, aren't all men supposed to be like that? But it's always said, look, temptation through the eyes leads to indulging the bodily members in this case, adultery. But wait a minute. Just hold on. Is this adultery? Or is it rape? I ask you also, it's extremely clear in the account that I reckon it's being written by a man. And note in the account, it's very, very clear that this was after her time of ritual purification, as some Bible translations put it. In other words, after her menstrual period. So it's possible that she can get pregnant. And sure enough, she does. So what does it go down as always? David's sin of adultery, sleeping with Uriah the Hittite's wife. In fact, when we consider marriage in those days, kind of using the property of Uriah the Hittite, because a wife, like the children, was considered the property of her husband. She had no individual rights. She was his property. She was his servant. She was married to him and would serve him to produce future generations. She would satisfy his sexual lusts. She would keep his house, and she would be obedient to his commands. Oh, think of many people, even in Christianity today, who define the ideal wife as like that. But I just want to explore one thing. Is this just adultery? Or is it rape? Personally, I'd describe it as rape. I'd describe it as a crime. So, not only this, but David decides to conceal the crime. When he did this with Uriah the Hittite's wife, Uriah was conveniently away fighting some campaign somewhere on behalf of the army of Israel. Then, of course, Uriah comes back home after what is here called his hard trip. Now, it's known in the rest of this story that essentially David then sends him out again in battle, effectively organizing him being murdered. He puts him at the head of the army, yeah, and puts him in an untenable position militarily, with no reinforcements, flanks not properly covered, and all this lot. And then he withdraws the army from Uriah the Hittite, leaving him as a sitting duck for the opposition. So you could argue that effectively he uses his power to have Uriah the Hittite murdered in battle. Now here's the point, right? Later on, we also read the great Psalms of David. The Psalms, the 23rd Psalm, right, where David describes the Lord as his shepherd, and he's not afraid. But just a quick point on this. It's not that he's not feeling fear when he thinks about that. He's just not fearful of evil, because God is his shepherd. This passage, too, again, is often preached at congregations to say, be careful with your eyes, specifically, you gentlemen. Yeah, be careful with your eyes, be careful what you do. But one of the more disturbing things that seems to come out of this passage, especially from a lot of evangelical and fundamentalist Christians, is this ridiculous notion that somehow Bathsheba kind of deserved what she got, and she kind of incited David to do this by displaying herself naked on a roof. In other words, she tempted him. She was a bit of a temptress. So, and really she shouldn't have been there bathing on a roof. He shouldn't have been there flaming looking. Yeah, but again, that's this idea, isn't it? That very popular in some Christian churches. Even if a woman is raped, sometimes by a pastor or something, there's always some kind of thing involved in here. Well, did she tempt him? Did she display too much flesh? Did she egg him on? Was it secretly something she wanted from this wonderful man of God? And although he did force himself upon her, is she not also partly responsible? And shouldn't she really have to forgive her rapist? Because it won't look good if she doesn't forgive him. Think about that for a sec, but I just thought it might be an interesting thing to ponder on.